On November 5th, Russian forces took the offensive initiative along the Kupiansk-Swatowe-Kreminna line, but without visible success. A message from the Ukrainian General Staff spoke of the successful repulse of Russian attacks in several places. Northeast of Petropavlovka, which is 7 kilometers east of Kupiansk, near Sinkauka, 8 kilometers northeast of Kupiansk, Iwanoki, 20 kilometers southeast of Kupiansk, Bilohorivki, 13 kilometers south of Kreminna, and Spirne, 25 kilometers south of Kreminno. One Russian military blogger suggested that these actions also took place in the area of Stepova Novosilka, 18 kilometers southeast of Kupiansk, near Makiivka, 22 kilometers northwest of Kreminna, and in the vicinity of Dubrova, leading towards the Forest Serebryanska area, 11 kilometers south of Kreminna. We also learned from Russian information sources that Russian forces moved to the Kislovka area, 20 kilometers southeast of Kupiansk, and on November 4th, they took action near Makiivka. The Russian Ministry of Defense noted that Ukrainian forces made what they considered unsuccessful attempts to attack along the Kupiansk-Swatowe-Kreminna line on November 5th. On Sunday, November 5th, Ukrainian authorities announced the initiation of an investigation into a Russian missile attack that, according to press reports, took place during an awards ceremony near the front lines this week. Media reports indicate that at least 20 Ukrainian soldiers were killed during Friday's meeting of the brigade, awarding decorations in the southern part of the Zaporizhia Oblast. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, commented on this event in the following words: "This is a tragedy that could have been avoided." He also emphasized that an investigation had been launched into the incident, although AFP was unable to immediately confirm details of the attack or the exact number of casualties. The Ukrainian army confirmed on Saturday that Friday's rocket attack on the 128th Assault Brigade had killed many of its soldiers, but did not provide exact figures. The military reported that Russia fired an Iskander-M missile at the 128th Assault Brigade, killing many soldiers and injuring the local population. Ivan Sawitsky, one of the Ukrainian soldiers, announced via social media that 22 people from the brigade were killed in the attack. He also criticized the decision to organize the ceremony, saying, "Everyone says heroes died. It would be better to say heroes became victims." He also added that it was a manifestation of the worst form of traditional military practices. The Russian Ministry of Defense, during a conference on Saturday, said their actions caused a fire defeat of a Ukrainian assault unit in Zaporizhia, claiming that up to 30 people were killed. Viktor Mikita, governor of the Zaporizhia Oblast in Ukraine, where the above-mentioned assault brigade is stationed, announced that a 3-day mourning period would begin on Monday. On Sunday, he stressed the importance of remembering the fallen, saying, "Our heroes live as long as we remember them and their deeds." On November 5th, Ukrainian forces continued their counteroffensive operations around Bakhmut, although no specific successes were recorded. A communiqué issued by the Ukrainian General Staff indicated that offensive operations were conducted south of Bakhmut. One of the military bloggers of Russian origin emphasized that Ukrainian forces had recently captured an area east of the railway line near the town of Andriivka, which is 10 kilometers southwest of Bakhmut, and that fierce fighting was ongoing in the vicinity of Klishchievka, 7 kilometers southwest of Bakhmut. Clashes. In turn, Russian forces on November 5th conducted limited offensive operations near Bakhmut and recently captured some territories southwest of that city. Geolocation-based data released on November 4th suggests that the Russians made little progress west of the section of the railway line near Klishchievka. In addition, a statement from the Ukrainian General Staff shows that Ukrainian forces successfully repelled more than 10 attack attempts from the Russian side in towns such as Bodanivka, 7 kilometers northwest of Bakhmut, Kromiv, which lies immediately west of Bakhmut, and Klishchievka, Andriivka and Pyatykhatka, 21 kilometers southwest of Bakhmut. In an interview on NBC's Meet the Press program, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed his reluctance to hold talks with Russia, emphasizing his position on the issue. A clearly concerned and irritated Zelensky answered questions about the information that U.S. and European representatives were holding talks with the Ukrainian government to end the conflict. Commenting on the situation on the front, where, as Valery Zaluzhny, the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian armed forces, admitted there is a stasis, Zelensky said, "The Americans note that I am not willing to talk to terrorists because their promises are empty. The president emphasized that he is not currently in contact with Russia and said that only after Russia leaves Ukrainian territory will it be possible to start diplomatic talks. During the conversation, when the host asked him about his personal thoughts and feelings, Zelensky replied that although he had a lot of strength and energy, he did not want to fight endlessly because the conflict was depriving the nation of many valuable people. He firmly stated that Ukraine did not intend to surrender to Putin, whom he called a terrorist. Zelensky also denied claims that the war had reached a stalemate, but admitted that the situation was complicated. He emphasized the lack of Ukrainian air defense, which allows Russia to control the airspace over the conflict area. He added that without adequate air defense, Ukraine will not be able to operate effectively on the front. Despite almost a year of stagnation on the front line, in June, Ukraine attempted to regain the territory occupied by Russia. President Zelensky also met regularly with the leaders of Western countries, trying to obtain support in the form of advanced air defense and reduce the fatigue of the war, which has been going on for over 600 days. On November 5th, Russian forces continued their offensive operations in the Avdiivka area, but they failed to achieve any significant successes. According to the Ukrainian General Staff, Ukrainian troops managed to repel more than 20 enemy attack attempts in the vicinity of towns such as Stepoe, which is located 3 kilometers north of Avdiivka itself. Severny, located 6 kilometers west of Avdiivka, and Pervomaisky, 11 kilometers southwest of Avdiivka. One of the Russian military bloggers claimed that Russian forces managed to establish a bridgehead near Stepov and advance west of the railway line close to this settlement. Another Russian blogger suggested that the Russians had made some, if imprecise, progress southeast of Avdiivka, while also conducting attacks towards Novokalinov, 8 kilometers north of Avdiivka, after intense fire from multiple rocket launchers. Vitaly Barabash, who is responsible for managing military affairs in Avdiivka, emphasized that Russian artillery and aviation are constantly bombarding Ukrainian positions in Avdiivka and its vicinity, carrying out 4 to 10 intense attacks a day. According to information provided by Ukrainian officials, on November 5th, Russian forces continued to suffer significant losses near Avdiivka. The press spokesman of the Ukrainian Ground Forces Command, Volodymyr Fityo, reported on the same day that the Russians lost 212 people in this conflict zone. A day earlier, Brigadier General Serhiy Baranov, who heads Ukrainian missile, artillery, and drone units, reported that over the past 24 hours, Russian forces had suffered losses of 250 killed and wounded, and had lost 20 armored vehicles. Additionally, a Russian military blogger mentioned that Ukrainian forces launched a counterattack near Krasnohorivka, 5 kilometers north of Avdiivka, also on November 5th, although he did not provide detailed information on the results of this action. A railway project is underway that will connect Russia's Rostov-on-Don with Crimea through the Zaporizhia Oblast. This information was provided on November 6th by the Russian agency RIA Novosti. The Russian representative in the Zaporizhia Oblast, Yevhen Balitsky, indicated the railway route as passing through Yakimivka, Melitopol, Berdyansk, and then Mariupol, heading towards Rostov-on-Don. Balitsky emphasized that work on this project has started in full swing. Petro Andriushchenko, advising the mayor of Melitopol, who is currently in exile, signaled on September 27th that Russia had started building a railway line connecting the occupied territories in the Donetsk region. The aim of this project is to reduce the dependence of the Russian armed forces on the Crimean Bridge. Balitsky added that the new railway artery will facilitate the logistics of the Russian armed forces and will allow the bridge to be bypassed. He pointed out that the journey across the Crimean Bridge is not only long, but currently the bridge is a place of increased risk. The Crimean Bridge, which connects Crimea with the Krasnodar Krai in Russia, suffered significant damage during the Ukrainian attack on July 17th. Crimea plays a key role as an important logistics point for Russian forces operating in southern Ukraine. Another Ukrainian attack that took place on November 4th damaged a Russian aircraft carrier at the shipyard in Kerch, Crimea. On November 5th, Russian forces continued their operations on the ground in the western part of the Zaporizhia Oblast, achieving limited successes. Analysis of geolocation data from November 4th shows that the Russians managed to advance slightly towards the fortifications located west of the town of Verbove, which lies 10 kilometers east of Robotyne. In turn, the Ukrainian General Staff reported that the Russians also tried to attack northwest of Werbowo, in the vicinity of Robotyne, north of Nesteryanka, which is located 10 kilometers northwest of Robotyne, and in the area of Pyatykhatka, 25 kilometers northwest of Robotyne. On November 5th, the Russian Ministry of Defense published a video that allegedly shows soldiers from the 7th Russian Airborne Division operating against Ukrainian positions in the vicinity of Verbove and Robotyne. Meanwhile, on the same day, Ukrainian forces also conducted offensive operations in the western part of the Zaporizhia Oblast, achieving modest successes. Materials from November 4th indicate that Ukrainian troops managed to make some progress northwest of Verbove. The Russian Ministry of Defense, however, suggested that their forces successfully repelled Ukrainian attacks in the Robotyne and Verbove areas. One Russian military blogger reported that the Ukrainian attack near Prokopivka, located south of Robotyne, was unsuccessful. Several Russian sources stressed that the situation along the Robotyne-Verbove line has not changed much, and that the current fighting there is mainly an exchange of fire at fixed positions. More than 20,000 families from Ukraine receive financial support for the renovation of their properties damaged by Russia's military operations. As Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal announced on November 5th, the funds were allocated thanks to the National E-Recovery Program. Through the DAIA government application, residents can apply for subsidies to renovate their homes. The initiative was designed by several ministries with the support of the Eurasia Foundation. Prime Minister Shmyhal noted that the typical amount of support for a single household is 78,000 UAH. He also emphasized that the government is analyzing cases of houses completely destroyed as a result of the conflict with Russia. The DIA application has already issued 300 vouchers for people applying for support, and the current budget has allocated UAH 2.5 billion for these purposes. Shmyhal also reported on achievements in the reconstruction of medical and educational infrastructure. In Ukraine, due to hostilities, 1,455 medical facilities were damaged, of which 190 were completely ruined. So far, 411 facilities have been restored, while another 412 have been partially repaired. Additionally, 500 educational facilities have been reconstructed since the conflict began. The Prime Minister also noted that the Draft Budget Act for 2024 was adopted during the second reading. He emphasized that Ukraine's most important goal remains its defense and triumph. The final vote on the budget is scheduled to take place on November 20th.